Our next speaker used to be on the speaking circuit a lot. It's great to see him back. You'll recognize him. He's been at Spotify for quite a while. He's based in Stockholm. He's actually been here at NS Spain before, so it's great to see him back again. Please welcome to talk about testing and, you guessed it, AI, it's Roy.
Talk about AI and testing. At the beginning of the year, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, said that programming is going to dramatically change during this year, and I think we're all kind of feeling it. There's a ton of hype and excitement over vibe coding and all the great things that AI can do with code. There isn't quite the same level of excitement about testing. But yeah, maybe after today, we can start to move in that direction, hopefully. Tests are binary. They either pass or they fail. They follow clear patterns, and they're quite repetitive. In theory, this should be a perfect problem for AI to solve. This is the stuff AI is really good at. And it is. I'm going to show you different ways through which you can improve your code coverage, reduce flakiness, have more complete requirements, and save time. I work at Spotify, and as well as building AI features for users, I've been driving the adoption of AI tools for iOS engineers. So my perspective on AI tools is working in a company with multiple contributors, and I think that that's a little bit different from when you're working on your own project or working by yourself on something else. So today, we're going to look at the whole spectrum of testing. We're going to start with planning and writing requirements, unit tests, UI tests, and we'll end by looking a little bit towards the future. I will demonstrate things with Claude Code and Gemini. If these are not the tools that you use, that's totally fine. The tooling landscape is constantly changing. I think when I pitched the talk, I was using Cursor. So don't get too attached to the tools. I think the mindset is more important than the tools, and there's still a lot of value if you're using Codex or something else right now. And I'll have these blue slides for takeaways. These are things I want you to remember from this talk and take home. We're in Logroño. Logroño has this incredible street called Calle Laurel. Calle Laurel is full of pincho bars, and it's an amazing place. What Calle Laurel doesn't have is an app. So we're going to demonstrate our ideas with a Calle Laurel app. Our designer has made a Figma prototype of what the app will look like. It's a very basic app. It's a list of all of the bars and all of the specialty pictures. And you can rate the places. You can add a photo. I think you can mark them bean or want to go, and you can see them on a map. Okay, is that clear? That's what we're building. Okay. Now, we want to write it in a testable way. We need a plan. We need requirements and test cases. And the way we typically approach it at a company is to put a lot of people in a room and start discussing what happens. For every user interaction, what do we expect to happen? And we need to write it in a very specific way that's consistent, that's easy to consume later. And these meetings drag on, and they take such a long time, and you're kind of losing the will to continue. So AI can help us with this. Yes, it can. One way to do that I found to be extremely valuable is to actually take this Figma prototype walkthrough and use that as input. So if we take that video that I showed you and a prompt, put it into Gemini, we get this. This is, I know it's hard to be excited by a spreadsheet, but this is all of the requirements for our app in a given when-then format, which is my favorite, produced in seconds. This will typically be few hours of meetings and just done instantly. The takeaway here is to use video. So I think a lot of people forget how multimodal these agents are, and video is a really fantastic way to bring the user experience in as an input. It shows the flows, it shows how things work, and AI understands it. Why is there a prompt there? The prompt is there to make it repeatable and reusable and shareable within your team. You could get there just by having a back and forth conversation, but having that prompt as an artifact means that you can reuse it later when you're doing the next feature or the next part of your app. So I'm going to show you a prompt. It's long, don't be scared, but we're not going to go through it. This I kind of created through a back and forth process of talking to the AI. The one part that I want to highlight is this part. So this is, I think Joe showed something similar, but adding a phase for asking about things that are not clear. So this is really a power move when working with AI, and it allows us to have requirements that go beyond what's in the Figma prototype that we showed. So in our case, we got this question. So what happens when a user attempts to save a rating without selecting any stars? And that's a great question. There's a requirement there, whatever our answer is, and that can be added to that CSV list. Amazon actually wrote a blog post about doing a similar process, and they saw an 80% speed boost. So this is really something that you can take today and do with your teams when you get back. So in this process, AI kicks things off. We still need to refine the output and continue to iterate on the prompt and the workflow. And we'll see that this is kind of a theme for how we do things. All right, so we have our great CSV, we have all of our test cases. Now it's time to code. You can code with cool AI tools, you can do it the artisanal way with manually, whatever way you like to do it. You write code, you end up with a bunch of unit tests as well. But AI can help us improve those tests. The simplest thing to do would be to just fire up Claude Code and ask it to write more tests. And that works. So you do that, and you get a bunch of tests. They seem like reasonable tests, but if you look closely, they're not the most valuable tests. So we have tests for codable conformance, just initializing things. They're OK. They don't add a lot of value to our trust in our system. So yeah, this test even fails. So can we do better? Can we do better than that? And we can. So we open Claude Code again, and we give it some feedback. We say, I didn't like the tests. This is how I think. I give it some pointers how to write better tests. And if we do that, we get Claude takes the feedback and produces much better tests. So Claude works great. Yeah, and these tests are in the format that I want. They test one thing at a time. They're valuable for our system, so we can ship them. But we want to make this repeatable. We want to do this. We don't want everyone in the team to keep explaining how to write a good unit test and what do we think a good unit test is. So a nice trick is to actually ask it to capture the learnings from this session in a Markdown file and optimize it for an LLM. What this does is not just a more verbose version of the feedback that I gave it. It also includes all of the reasoning and context that it used to create the tests. So what we end up with are unit testing guidelines. Again, this is another huge block of text that I'm showing you. But this is very, very useful. And that if we have that, we can feed that into the AI every time, into the agent, and get consistent tests that follow these practices. So what we got out of this is documentation. And we can add more and more things that are relevant to our testing documentation. We can add additional best practices that we have. We can write about our approach to stubbing and mocking. We can mention our testing frameworks if we use Nimble, etc. And basically anything that's unique to the way that you write tests in your code base. The important thing is, as we add these things, to keep it optimized for use by AI. What that means is a bit about the length, so making sure that it doesn't get too long, and also about the structure, that it's a structure that is easy for AI to follow. AI-optimized documentation helps AI and people contribute to your code base. So it's a great thing to spend time on and to keep improving. But we can do even better by managing the context. So if you imagine a coding session with AI, you do a lot of things, you create your feature, and then you give it this testing guidelines to write tests. The context is already full of a lot of reasoning and a lot of input. And it's not guaranteed that we will necessarily get what we put in this doc. One thing we can do to control the context is to use sub-agents. So the way we do it is with /agents in Claude. And what this does is basically clear the context for this task. So we can create a little iOS unit test writer agent. And all we tell it to do is just to read the doc and write tests. But by it being an agent, it means that it will do that with a clear context and consistently, whatever else we did in the same session. We can invoke it by asking for it to be invoked, or Claude might invoke it by itself. Last year, Meta published this paper around their attempts to improve unit tests with LLMs, and they described a workflow called TestGen LLM. And it kind of looks like this. So you collect coverage, code coverage for your app. You write tests with an LLM, and then you start filtering things out. So you filter tests that don't build, tests that don't pass, tests that don't increase code coverage, and you end up with a smaller subset of tests that you then show your developers. If we were to do this with Claude, I would also use sub-agents for the code coverage, parsing, and collecting, because I don't want to pollute the context with that information. I want it to happen on its own context as well. So in Meta's paper, they claim that 73% of the tests were accepted to production, which is a great success. Now, if we were to describe that workflow as a prompt, we can do that. But commands are basically prompts on speed dial. You don't have to use them, but they are useful if you're working in a team and you want these things to be easily accessible. So if we were to write a command, we can then, everyone in our team can trigger it like this. So we can just do like /testgen, and it will run the whole workflow. And the command is just a prompt. It just lives in a separate part of the folder structure. Right. That, if we run this flow, it improves the code coverage in Kaya-Lorel by 10%, which is nice. So AI can help us, and we still need to refine the output, review the tests, see that they're valuable, and continuously improve the workflow. There's one more step that I like to add, which is similar to these like asking clarifying question steps, but ask for feedback after you produce the tests. And then we use that feedback to continuously update the unit testing guidelines that we have. And if we do that, we basically get a loop for continuous improvement. So the more we use these tools, the better they get. Right. We have our tests. Our tests are testing units and components within our app, but our app can have user flows that go across different parts of the app, key user flows. And typically, we would cover them with UI tests, with XCUI tests. These are tests, if you're not familiar, it basically runs through the app, uses accessibility identifiers or strings to tap and touch and verify that things work as expected. The problem with UI tests is that they're quite fragile. So they can break very easily. And it's a bit difficult to know why they broke. So you need to spend time, if your UI tests break, to figure this out, to figure if it's a copy change, an actual bug, accessibility issue, OS update. A lot of things can break them. And generally, the best practice is to use them as little as possible, to have only really a few of them that only cover the most important things in your app. But AI is adaptive. It can overcome challenges. Maybe it can help us have better UI tests. So let's see how AI can help write better UI tests. The dream is to have an AI that sees and uses the app just like a real user would. And Google have built a product for this for Android called Journeys, and it works kind of how you would expect. So you write natural language steps, and it just uses the app and verifies that these steps are fulfilled. Apple didn't write a similar thing, so we have an open source version of the same idea. It's called RBGent. And it works pretty much the same way, but it can run on iOS in the simulator. So this sounds, oh, wait. This sounds amazing. So can we now run UI tests pre-merge and have a lot of trust in them and know that they will always pass because AI is going to save us. So there's a catch. These tests right now are extremely slow. So the way that they work is there's a runner, takes a screenshot, uploads it, the screenshot gets processed, there's an action sent back, the runner does the action, you need to wait, it takes another screenshot, and that can take a very, very long time. And a long time on CI is quite expensive, but it's also expensive because you need a lot of tokens to do all of these LLM calls to run this test. So if it's something you wanted to run pre-merge, it will add up. The steps that you write in natural language need to be extremely clearly defined, so any kind of ambiguity can cause issues. And I think the worst part is that AI itself becomes a source of fragility. So there are hallucinations, there are misunderstandings of the UI if you have anything that's not entirely clear, there are misunderstandings of the steps, and sometimes it just goes wild and fails. So the dream was something that's not flaky, that we can rely on, and when, at least for now, in September 2025, we're not quite there yet. So what if instead of trying to run the entire UI test with AI, we only focused on the part that's most fragile? So that's really this identifying an element, so finding something on the screen and not being able to find it. The theory, so these are called self-healing locators. That's, people are working on this. And the theory is that if the test cannot find it, AI could find it. There are two companies that are leading away with this, so BrowserStack and TestTim. Right now, it's only for cloud-based testing, but they claim a 70% reduction in flakiness. It's an asterisk because I couldn't find something really verifiable for that number. But they've seen big success with this. My call to action for you, if you want to vibe code something, try to hack this for XUI test. I think that could be extremely valuable to have. The same technology can be used for monkey testing. This is the idea of just letting it loose on your app for a few minutes and seeing if it can uncover crashes or dead ends. But it suffers from all of the same issues. It can also be used for snapshot testing. So for snapshot testing, you can also get sometimes false positives, so tests can fail just because of small rendering changes. And then at that point, you will ask AI to see if the change is significant. I personally don't find this that valuable. So a lot of these small changes generally come with OS updates, and then you kind of know the cause, and you can re-record this. It's not something that happens regularly, at least not in my experience. So the takeaway is that there are a lot of great ideas on how we can use AI to improve UI tests. But as of right now, I don't think there's something that I would strongly recommend for you to bring to your code base. I do expect this to change. People are working on this. There are a lot of great ideas and great people trying to solve it. OK, we're going to look a little bit to the future. I know it's extremely risky with something like AI that keeps changing all the time. So just to qualify and take everything I say with a pinch of salt, I think the future is less about these chat interfaces and more about background agents. These are coding agents that run in the background, unsupervised, and generate PRs for you. This future is already reality for a lot of people, but I think the adoption will increase significantly in the next few weeks and months. And in that world, testing takes on much bigger importance. So the tests become the safety net, the guardrails, through which we can trust all this new output that we're going to get from AI. So we need great tests in order to really benefit from this world. Our role will become less about writing tests and more about refining the output and improving the workflows, as I've showed on all of these examples. And we'll need to come up with new guidelines, new annotation, new prompts that allow the AI to run unsupervised and get the output that we want. One problem that I'm thinking about is how should AI act when a test fails? Today, when that happens, I use my judgment to figure out whether I need to change my code or whether actually the underlying assumptions change and I need to change the test. And this is something that without guidance, we cannot really trust the AI to do by itself. AI will keep making our tests and how we test faster, but it's not effortless. our effort is just going to shift more into how we guide it. So, some takeaways and things that I want you to bring home on Monday. You can speed up how you write requirements and test cases right now through using video with AI. You can create AI-assisted testing workflows and create AI-optimized documentation, and that's a great thing to spend time on. When you're working with others, you should share the prompts and workflows that work well, maybe through commands, maybe through a shared repo. And you should be aware of all of these interesting ideas for reducing flakiness in tests, and when they're ready, I think you should jump on them. And what I really want you to go back with is a new sense of urgency around your test suite and improving it. I think we all have some gaps here and there. And the time that you spend improving your tests will unlock this next era of background agents doing good things in your code base. Thank you.